You are watching Platinumnorthwesttvnews. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Philadelphia Mangoeng. Let's take a look at the leading top stories. First up, the EFF insists that President Ramaphosa must be arrested over the Phala Phala saga, and we take a look at the crime stats that was released. In the business news, government is facing challenges in its plan to stop analog TV, and in the sports news, Bayern to host PSG in Titanic Champions League match. We begin here. The economic freedom fighters and the African Transformation Movement will argue that Parliament's rejection of a report on the Phala Phala saga involving President Ramaphosa was irrational and unlawful. EFF members marched to the Constitutional Court on Tuesday, where the party is battling it out with the president's legal team. The party will also rather ask the courts to declare the parliamentary rules on independent panel report as invalid and unconstitutional. The EFF contends Ramaphosa only occupies the highest office because Parliament refused to subject him to an impeachment inquiry over the saga. EFF leader Julius Malema has said that President Cyril Ramaphosa needs to be held accountable.
Thank you very much, comrades. We are now going to start our march to the Constitutional Court. We are going to the Constitutional Court because there is a Phala Phala case that the EFF brought against the President of the Republic of South Africa, because 10 million was found in his sofas. A president cannot stash $10 million under his sofas and is not punished for that. Every president must be held responsible.
Malema also mentioned that the MK party's agenda is to destroy the EFF.
And then come and say we want black unity. It will not come at the expense of the EFF. We must defend the EFF. We don't want to see MKP anywhere. We will meet in Parliament, even in funerals. We don't want them. They're everywhere. They're gazebo. MKP's agenda is to destroy the EFF.
In other news, the murder rate in South Africa has decreased by 5.8% for the second quarter of the financial year. The quarterly crime statistics from July to September indicate that sexual offence decreased by 2.5% and robbery with aggravating circumstances decreased by 8.8%. Additionally, rape decreased by 3.1%, while robbery at residential premises and non-residential premises decreased by 1.3% and 21.1% respectively. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu said the only increases reported were for attempted murder, which rose by 2.2%. Assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm, which increased by 1%, and commercial crime, which saw an uptick of 18.5%. Mkhunu was asked about the working relationship between the SAPS and the Department of Correctional Services amid a spate of prison escapes.
We were being practical on this matter to say we can't be a country with high levels of crime and therefore engaging, as we are doing as ministry, police, high level or top brass police in the country, and saying, drive crime down and let's do everything that we need to do to drive crime down, and sit and spend many hours strategizing and doing all sorts of work, and they in turn chasing all these criminals, including very dangerous criminals. Arrest these people, get them to courts, and finally get them to what is supposed to be their resting place, called correctional services, only for them to get popular there in one way or the other, as it happens, and they befriend some officials there, and some of them get whatever they get to gratify, as we get stories informally, some of these correctional services. And they get cell phones, and they get favors that finally get them out. In some cases, it's in the form of parole, lenient application of parole laws, and in some cases, in whatever way, failure to supervise them when they finally get that parole. So we've held a meeting to say, let's have a meeting, let's discuss this matter because it is facing South Africa in the eye. How do you find joy that a criminal who has records like murder has been arrested and so on, and now in the correctional service facility, only to be confronted by him again on the allegation that that crime is committed by the same criminal? Unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And there can't be any excuse, including any level of corruption in correctional services. It must be fought. It must be overcome. And we engaged along these lines, and we're hoping that they're working on that, but it's unacceptable. Now, we did say to South Africa, in Lusikisiki, even in the early stages, there may be a case or at some point where somebody in correctional services becomes one of the suspects in the matter of 18 people. Now, the Sunday Times then come with headlines and say, I'm a monster. And when you read that on Sunday morning, who is this monster? Who is saying so? It is a very is a very person who was sentenced for murdering a policeman, now sitting there. And you get a chill when you get that there may have been consideration to give him parole, let alone a chill when a person is said to have been saying, I'm a monster, as it turns out, which we were aware of during the investigation. These stories were coming out, and so on. That is chilling, it's painful, and it's unacceptable.
In more news, the Provincial Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Selokwena, has conveyed his profound condolences to the family, friends, relatives and colleagues of the late Constable Mojalefa Mgwebi, who was allegedly killed in Kanana Township in the early hours of Sunday morning. His police spokesperson, Colonel Amanda Funani, with more.
The off-duty Constable Mgwebi's lifeless body was found inside his vehicle by neighbors who alerted the police. Mgwebi, who was stationed at Jubitin police station, was found with gunshot wounds on his upper body. According to information, the member was last seen by his cousins, whom he dropped at their residential places after attending a family gathering in Klerksdorp on Saturday. The motive for the incident is unknown at this stage. Investigations into the matter by Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation continue. The Provincial Commissioner said that it is sad to lose a member due to murder and that the incident will have a direct impact on service delivery to our communities. He instructed the investigators to leave no stones unturned in ensuring that those who are responsible are brought to book.
And on to this now. On Monday, the city of Matlosana Municipality, in partnership with law enforcement officials from the South African Police Service, undertook the removal of unauthorized structures and informal shelters adjacent to the taxi rank in Klerksdorp. It has been reported that despite multiple warnings issued by authorities, some vendors did not comply with the request to dismantle these structures, which were not only violating of regulations but also negatively impacted the town's cleanness and overall aesthetic appearance. The municipality has communicated the removal of these structures is a vital measure to uphold a clean, safe and healthy environment for all residents and visitors. This alternative placement will enable vendors to continue their business activities while complying with the municipality's bylaws and regulations. Moving on to international news now, Libyan soldiers detained over 300 migrants, including men, women and children, who were attempting to cross the desert to reach the Mediterranean coast. The migrants were intercepted by a desert patrol and will be handed over to the relevant authorities. The detention was announced by the 444 Brigade, a force operating under Libyan army, on their Facebook page. Aerial photos show the migrants sitting on the ground surrounded by soldiers. Let's take a look now at the business news. In the business news, the South African government is facing challenges in its plan to stop analog TV signals by the 31st of December this year. Communications Minister Solly Malatsi has indicated that funding issues linked to the dual illumination process, where both analog and digital signals operate simultaneously, could delay the switch off. Without adequate funding, the timeline for the transition to digital TV may be pushed back. The government has already spent 1.23 billion on dual illuminations since 2014. And that's all from the business news. Your sports update follows next. In soccer news, Bayern Munich is set to host Paris Saint-Germain at the Allianz Arena on Tuesday, with both sides under pressure to secure a vital Champions League victory. Bayern sitting 17th in the group stage with 6 points from 4 matches, need a strong result, while the Parisians are even worse off in 25th. Earning only 4 points in as many games. In another late-night game, Sporting Lisbon will welcome Arsenal in Portugal. Kickoff is at 10 p.m. Manchester City are enjoying the worst run from the English champions in over 50 years and will endeavour to return to their winning ways on Tuesday night when they play host to Dutch outfit Feyenoord in the Champions League. That kickoff is also at 10 p.m. In more soccer news, the lawyer representing Samir Nurkovic in the striker's 15 million battle with Royal AM has told the club that it has until next week to pay or face even more severe consequences. Royal AM failed to have a transfer ban handed to them by FIFA to terminate the contract between the two parties prematurely more than a year ago, overturned, resulting in Nurkovic dragging them to Zurich for leaving him unemployed. Lazic has now promised to return to FIFA to report the failure to uphold the judgment, which could mean either a point deduction, relegation to the lower division, or worst case scenario, both. And that's where we're going to have to leave it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow evening. Till then, good night and take care.